Hi there and welcome to Bustthenet. Yes, I'm going to be talking about my best tactic for FM19. Is it the best tactic ever? For FM19, I think is one of the top 3 tactics I have. Okay? I have a few that I mean, I'm like the kind of guy that goes, this is the best tactic for me, and then I'll quickly create one. Oh, this is even better than the last tactic. But I love my tactics. But this one by far is the one that gives me the most joy because I've done certain things with this tactic. Firstly, it's not very far from the Manchester City replication. In fact, the basis of it came from FM18, the Man City replication. And I have to thank the Matt Sheep because he's the one who asked me to take a look at it again. And I was kind of thinking, okay, maybe I want to do this. Let's do a replication. But in order for us to do a replication, we have to look at the logic behind the system. We have to you got to look at the transitions, you got to look at the consolidation phases in real life and then try and apply in the game. And then you got to get that movement right. The final third movement of your players is really important. Most importantly, the reason why it's fluid attacking force is because you won't know who's going to score. On today's show, what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it down and try and cover everything. Right. First up, I've got to explain the logic system. That means I'm going to analyze the game in real life, and then I'm going to have to try and apply it. What am I trying to apply? What am I trying to achieve? And I have to explain that logic first. The second thing is what kind of goals can we get right from this. There are going to be different kinds of goals. I mean, if I were to do a analysis, I probably will in this show as well. Why are the goals with Torino slightly different from the goals for Liverpool? And as far as Staley Bridge are concerned, Staley Bridge have been using the Firefox system, which is also a 4-1-2-3. However, theirs is slightly different because of the situation that they're in. And I actually planned for them to use the liquid 4-1-2-3 as well towards the end of the season. So they're actually starting with the liquid 4-1-2-3 right now. And they've already played really well in 2 or 3 games that they've used the system for. Now back here, I will explain the rationale behind how I test it. Like why I usually have 3 different games that I test the same tactic on. One of the ways I test the tactic is to go on a holiday mode save, which is basically giving the tactic to an ass-man and going, I'm not getting involved with what you do. So apart from setting up the training, the only thing that I do, then I leave him to do player selections, and usually half the time I don't want to know about it because I'm probably going to fire his ass. And he did make some, and this ass-man of mine, let's set the stage, his tactical knowledge is 8. His judging player ability is 10. He would not be my ass-man in any scenario in the world because you need tactical knowledge to be high, and you need his judging PA also to be quite good, because then if you go on a holiday mode test, then you know that he's probably going to get it right as far as player selections are concerned. So his player selections were dodgy at times. The next thing I want to do is explain training, because for my setup for the tactic, I'm very specific about the kind of training that my team has to do. There are going to be certain attributes that they need to improve. And this also includes the youth team, because the youth team has its own training. I've already written about this in the FM Quick Guides that's been released to all the patrons. I will try and include a chapter of that into the book that's released for the general public. But the core here is training has to be holistic. You've got to have a plan. And what I've done is I've divided the season into specific phases, and I'll explain why I've done it later. Here, this is an image of Man City in a consolidation phase. As you can see, they've got the ball. They're going to try and work the ball around the pitch. They've got players in important positions across the pitch. The half spaces are being controlled as well. If the ball is cleared by the opposition, any one of these group of players will pick up the second ball. This player receives the ball wide. He's going to cut inside. He's going to take 4 players out. This is important. Okay, the City system, the wide players, when they cut inside, they have to take 4 players out. That is the goal of the way they play. And with my setup in FM19, I'm also going for the same thing, and I was very happy to see certain things. Now, if you look at the two images, I put the FM19 one here, and I put the city consolidation phase. They look identical, right? So there are very little differences between the two. Here I've got Mo Salah. He's cutting inside. He started out in this position. He cut inside. He pulled 4 players to him. They will pull players out, so much so that we have created 2v1 situations on the other side of the pitch. Is this a common way Liverpool score the goal in FM19? For me, it is, because we score a lot of goals like this. What we also want to do here is replicate certain other features like shunting teams wide. Here we want to force teams to go wide. We can win the ball, then launch counter attacks on them. There's another thing that we were able to do with this system. The other thing that I was surprised at was that Man City also do long shots from outside the edge of the box, because they move players around, creating opportunities for some of the players to smash the ball home. Well, this was also apparent with Torino, because Torino have quite a few players who can smash it in from outside the edge of the box. And as we are able to keep the ball outside, and we're really doing a very good job with possession, eventually it will land to somebody, or a mistake will happen, and somebody is ready. As you can see here, Bustthenet was totally unmarked because of the movement that the players were generating. Well, this is one of those games I had absolutely no idea who was going to step up and score the next goal. The next goal starts with our keeper. He plays the ball out to Alexander-Arnold. In my system with Liverpool, this is what I want to see. And as him driving at defenses, Firmino comes inside, slips in a pass for young Ben Woodburn, who scores his first goal in the Champions League. Here another run from Alexander-Arnold, plays it to Firmino. Firmino finds Salah. He comes inside, pulls 4 players to him, lays it off for Firmino, comes inside, and he scores the goal. So there are plenty of goals that almost look similar here with Liverpool. All he's got to do is, with the movement that the players are doing during the consolidation phase. During the consolidation phase, we pull so many players forward that we have a lot of passing options. And then when we get into the box, we create what I like to call in FM19 a decisions dilemma. In FM19, I also operate what's called a split block, forcing teams back to the goalkeeper who just has to clear the ball as a first choice. I created Liquid 1.0 in the FM guide that I released at the start of FM19. It's still in the book. That preset is a safe preset, which is supposed to create transitional football with a lot of players in attack. And you're supposed to play with certain PIs to get the whole system. I've improved it for FM19 this stage because I was really going for Man City's replication. So in order for me to get the W shape, the first thing we do is we employ 2 inverted wing backs. This is non-negotiable. You need this to get the W shape. The second thing that I have at the back here is pass it shorter on everybody. Okay, so all of them have got pass it shorter. These guys take fewer risks, except for the inverted wingback on defense is already going to be doing that. The sweeper keeper on attack is a mandatory role. Now, if your sweeper keeper is shit, then chances are you might concede a few goals. I like the way he plays because he starts a lot of counter attacks for me. So he does a lot of juicy things from the back. Then we've got DM and support. Now, DM support is, if you use the DM and support, chances are you're going to be vulnerable to long shots. So you got to accept that. Occasionally you will concede one from the edge of the box. If you're not so happy, you're going to use the anchor man, then it'll change your tactic quite a lot. Here I need the DM and support. I need the 3 of them to be moving high up the pitch so that they control it. The whole goal here is the DM has to be positioned quite, I'm not saying very high up the pitch, but he's got to be high enough for us to give a lot of security, because we've got the inverted wingbacks behind him or beside him. So it's really quite okay for him to be a DM and support. The only thing is, if people cut inside, you are still vulnerable to the long shot. Now in midfield, we have 2 roaming roles. We got a Mazzala and we got a roaming playmaker. The roaming playmaker has been told to dribble more, move into channels, close down more direct passes. Similar PIs from FM18. The Mazzala dribbles more, close down more, tackle harder. Now this is the start of my split block. Here we're doing the same thing. We got a split block operating here. So close down more, except for him, he doesn't tackle harder. We close down more with all these players and tackle harder. So this is where my split block starts. It's good. It puts a lot of pressure. So the difference between Liquid 1.0 and Liquid 2.0 is, in Liquid 1.0 I was playing a bit more wider. In Liquid 2.0 I'm actually playing it a bit narrow. Both systems still work. The goal here is for me to be able to play on higher mentalities, keep the ball and destroy teams. So how do I do that with my TIs? Now the TIs here, when I play on very attacking, generally I drop the tempo down. But this pass into space is situational. It's not something that's rooted to the system. It's like, sometimes I'll go pass into space, sometimes I don't. But generally, when I don't use pass into space, I get like 60% possession. Overlap left, overlap right will affect these two boys. Their positioning is going to be much higher. Then we've got passing directness shorter because of the mentality I'm on. Then run at defense because that's the way I want this. Because if you look at Man City, they don't really tiki-taka from defense to midfield, right? They actually have people driving through each defensive tier, right? They break through the defensive tiers quickly. So this is what I'm trying to do with this system as well. Counter press. If you regroup, your tactic is going to be a lot different. Once you start playing regroup, then you're playing more like the Firefox system. So if you're playing a regroup strategy, then your roles have to change in midfield. Then you're more likely to want to use Firefox than this one. This one is all about nice goals. Well, I mean, for me that is. Okay. So there's no distribution instructions because here the sweeper keeper is paramount. He will make the decisions on whether or not he's going to give it short or he's going to play it over the top. Very much similar to how Man City play. Now, if teams are going to press you, hallelujah. Because if you are a good team and you can play the ball out, your keeper has got passing options, in our case, whenever teams prevent short goalkeeper distribution on me, we score on goal. So, if I like the fact that other teams might prevent short goalkeeper distribution on me because of the way our W is shaped. But when it comes to us and other teams, prevent short goalkeeper distribution, sometimes I don't really need it, but because of the operating split block. However, it is possible for you to take it off. I leave it on because that's how I want the tactic to play. I don't want to play with a much higher line of engagement. I don't see the point. Right? Higher line of engagement with the split block is just good enough. So this is actually the way I've set up the Liquid 4123 system. Well, I suspect some of you have gone off to make that tactic and you're not watching this part of the video. So this is dedicated to those who are staying behind to watch the rest of the video because there's more to come, including player traits and training. Okay, so let's focus on the player traits first because these play a nice big part in the whole system and I love it. Okay, the guys wide. Now, if they don't have the cuts inside with the ball, player trait, they're going to play like wingers. And then you're forced to play inside forward and tell him to kind of stay wider, which is something I don't want. I want the option. That's the thing here, the option. I want the players to have, because that's why the training part comes in later and is really, really important. So here I want the wingers to sometimes cut inside with the ball and attack the box. And if there are runs with ball often or runs with ball through the center, it's just nice. I want them to take players on. So this will apply to both the wider players. The Mazala needs to get into the opposition area and he needs to run with the ball. So there's a lot of running with the ball in this group. So with the Mazala, I need him to get into the opposition area. If he's got gets further forward, it's okay. But gets into opposition area is really the player trait we're after. And for me, the next critical role is the roaming playmaker. He has to be able to dictate tempo as well as switch the ball to the other flank when the need arises. Okay, time for us to evaluate the results of Torino now. Torino may have finished second, right? They did really well. Liverpool haven't dropped any points yet in the league. They've been winning every single game. Staley Bridge are doing well, but Torino was the surprise thing because here I left it to the S-Man. The S-Man only had a tactic to begin with, and all he had to do was come up with player selection choices. The thing here is, with the S-Man, he made some really dodgy decisions when it came to player selection. I'm very, very certain if a human had taken over, he would have done a lot better because he would have done proper rotation, which the S-Man doesn't really do very well. And you would have had a strategy in place. If you see somebody is not performing very well, you see the transitions not working the way you want them to work, you'd have popped in another player. You would have used pass into space a bit more selectively. Here, pass into space was just put in as a default instruction. So there were some matches where they completely and absolutely demolished teams, like Genoa. Total possession, they had a lot of possession. They did like 61% possession this match. And then in another game, one of the games they lost, I think they had only about 20% possession against Juventus. I don't think they did very well. Juventus dominated the game from start to end, and they couldn't get a shout out. So it didn't really work out against Juventus. Juventus played well, but then when Juventus visited them at home, they thumped Juventus 6-1. Go figure. So here, what's important is to understand how this happened, and this has got a lot to do with training. Okay, now it's time for me to try and simplify training. Right? Okay, so what am I trying to achieve here? I want to get my team to play the football that I like. So they all have to improve certain attributes. These attributes need to show continual improvement. These include first touch, decisions, vision of the ball, passing, balance, composure, positioning, and work rate. Over the course of the season, they'll be doing general training that will influence these attributes to go up. They also will have individual focus. Like here, you have a defender who's doing endurance as an additional focus, and he's going to get work rate to go up. So you can do that with individual focus as well. Now, when it comes to the actual training schedules, now certain training schedules help you improve work rate. For example, like in preseason, sometimes what I do is I choose things like resistance training and endurance training because these help with work rate. So you're going to have to design like training schedules that meet the needs of your team. And as far as Daily Bridge and Liverpool, and in this case Torino, are concerned, Torino was given a very simple set of training sessions. I like to divide a season into phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. In phase 1, we start with pre-season all the way until about November, where we enter phase 2. Phase 1 is all about tactical familiarity. So all these blue ones, you're going to see a lot of blue ones here. So let me just pick one of my phase 1 tactical training schedule. This is my phase 1 defending technicals. Right. So in phase 1, I've got a lot of the blue. So my goal here is for them to improve their tactical familiarity. Even defensive shadow play helps with tactical familiarity. But it works on positioning, concentration, anticipation, and decisions, because I also want this to be improved for the defenders as well. So they work on more with these group, including activation training that helps with the tactical familiarity, and they do specific training in certain areas. Phase 1 is where I push my team. Occasionally I feel the need maybe to give them a few more rest periods, and I will. Sometimes I remove. My preference in phase 1 is actually to remove one of these, not to touch these. Anything that doesn't lend itself to tactical familiarity in phase 1, I'll remove it if the team needs a rest. Then November right through to February is my phase 2. Phase 2 is usually quite short, it's only 3 months. This is the point in time where you have fixture congestion. So in phase 2, I've got more rest periods. So the team plays with more rest periods in phase 2 because I want to avoid injury. Then I enter what is phase 3. In phase 3, we play with less of these, but more of these, so that we get our tactical familiarity is up. Right, so this is to maintain it, and then what I do is I have more of the training that's focusing on specific attributes. So here, this explains my phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 for training. So it's actually, to put it in really simple terms so people don't get confused, you can use the default ones. Right? Just remember, in phase 1, you want tactical familiarity to go up. Use more blue. Phase 2, you need to give more rest. Phase 3, use less blue, use more other colors. That's it. Okay. Now, what about your attributes? Now, attributes for me, I only have one training schedule which I keep using a lot of, which is my kickball training schedule. This is my training schedule which works on the attributes that I was after. Composure, decisions, off the ball, vision, passing. Remember the first part where I talked about first touch, passing? These are all the attributes that I'm after. So attacking patient becomes a very big part. Phase 1, this has less. In phase 2, I remove some of the blue and I add more attacking patient. So in phase 3, I maybe only have one possession, one tactical, and one attacking, and the rest of them are attacking patient. So I get the attributes that I'm after. And what I noticed with Torino, because I designed these schedules and I asked Torino to go and use them, phase 1, tactical familiarity wasn't up yet. They were okay, some occasional losses. The moment they entered phase 3, where they are ready, they're familiar with the tactic, everything is kosher, they went on a winning run. So they kept winning and winning and winning. I already came back and I noticed, wow, they've done quite well. They finished second. So those are the things that I'm after. Now, when it comes to the players and the specific positions themselves, if you are going to play this system and you start conceding a lot of goals, it's chances are you have the trio here, you don't have a good trio. Here you want a player with good positioning, good work rate, right? And he has to have good strong mentals. If you use a player here who doesn't tackle, doesn't have good positioning, then you might be. Mazzalas typically don't really defend, but if you can get a Mazzala who has got good strong mentals and can defend and can dribble with the ball, he's an amazing player that better give him 400,000 pounds a week, because very rare. Occasionally you might end up playing with somebody who really can't really do the tackling. Then you got to think about this player, you got to think about these two. But in all my systems, this player, I have Naby Keita playing here for Liverpool. For Torino, I have no idea who the S-Man use. For Stalybridge, I actually have a player here called Dempsey, who has about 11 for tackling, 12 for attacking dribbles. For Jerry Hallam, who's now coming along, also can tackle, has got positioning, can bring the ball in. So it's a common thing for all these that position among the different teams. They all can carry the ball. Here we want players who've got good acceleration, first touch, balance, dribbling. You want them to be able to take the ball from outside and bring them in. And then at the back, well, these two positions, this is the position most of you are going to worry about, because you don't have fullbacks. The inverted wingback isn't something you go in there, can I get an inverted wingback? It's not going to happen. So what you really want here is a fullback who has got acceleration, who's got some anticipation, and you want a fullback to have decision. Now, if he has passing and all the attributes a playmaker has, brilliant. Okay, but here with Liverpool, we have a TAA, Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's get further forward and runs with the ball often. And we got on the other side, we got the same story with Andy Robertson. And I told Andy Robertson to be on a defend duty because I really can't afford to have both of them bombing down the flanks. Honestly, the reason why this guy's on defend duty is because we got this guy doing a lot of hard work attacking the box. I don't really need two of them to be bombing down. We have the luxury, we can afford the luxury on the right flank because we're using a roaming playmaker here. So if you have a player here with very good decisions, right, off the ball, positioning, passing, bravery is a very important attribute. Work rate is very, very important. You want your team to have work rate, right? You want them to go up, because we are expecting quite a number of players to go up and down the pitch. So if you don't have work rate in any of these players, you got a question mark. Now, what if you got a player here and he's got low bravery? Sell him off, you can't use him in the system. It's as simple as that. You need a player here who's willing to go in for the challenge. Low bravery among these three is not an issue. But low bravery among these three is a major issue. So you can't have that. I've seen players sending their saves into me using one of my systems, and I know that my system requires the guys in the middle to chop down other players, and they got a player there with no tackling and no bravery, and I go like, that's the reason why he's not doing well. Then I put in another player, he could be sitting on the bench, or you may have transfer listed him. So think about the players that you have, because the system requires players. See, at the end of the day, you can have the best tactic in the world that's playing for you, but ultimately it still depends on the players that you have at your disposal. So that's one of the reasons why it's the best tactic with a question mark. It might be for me, but it might not be for you. And ultimately, you still need to make that really important decision on whether or not that player is fit for the role. If you're not sure, hire an ass-man. That is why I do it to Torino. Torino is my DOF challenge. I've got an ass-man just doing... I don't even know whether to do a show with Torino, honestly, because I'm not playing the game. Somebody else is. Will this system do well for everyone? Honestly, I can't say. Because it all depends on how you choose your players for the system, ultimately. Yeah, well, I mean, the ass-man seems to think anybody can use the system. He can use second, so I don't know anything about this game. So if you have any questions or you want to share your experiences with me, let me know. Please remember to use these as a template for you to go on and make your own tactics. Right? I'm hoping that's how people use this video. If you have any questions, please look me up on Twitter at Bustthenet or addicted2fm.com, my website. Once again, I want to thank all my patrons for their continued support of this channel. You make these kind of shows possible for the rest of the community. You guys take care. Have a good one. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.